Mickey 17 just hit theaters, starring the incredible Robert Pattinson in dual roles. I love this film, a huge fan of the book Mickey 7, and was so impressed by Bong Joon-Ho's adaptation. Anthony, how did you feel about the film?
I think it's the best film of 2025 so far this year. It's the one to beat. And there's been some pretty good movies that came out this year, but Mickey 17's on another level, filmmaking-wise, from the master director, Bong Joon-Ho. This film looks incredible. From the cinematography to the production design to visual effects, it's absolutely outstanding. I think it's a remarkable piece of science fiction. The narrative's outstanding. The novel is excellent, Mickey 7, and Bong Joon-Ho crafted a real perfect adaptation. And I think that a lot of people have reactions online are surprised by the zaniness of the humor, and there are people who are surprised that he made this film following up Parasite. And I think that Bong Joon-Ho is not someone who cares about like what his legacy looks like, what people think about with his film choices, but he's someone who seems to react to stories. Sometimes he writes originals, and this is obviously an adaptation. And I think this fits right in line with his filmography. He's done comedy before, and he's done sci-fi multiple times. His first film was a dark comedy, and then obviously Snowpiercer and The Host were science fiction films as well. Snowpiercer is very dark, but The Host is pretty silly. And so I think that this lines up with a lot of his filmography in the past, and it's an outstanding film. It's a lot of fun in the theater, and Robert Pattinson delivers. I mean, I can't see anyone doing a better performance this year, even with the film slated to come out.
Outrageously good. If you closed your eyes, you would have no idea that Mickey 17 is played by Robert Pattinson. Mickey 18 you could probably pick up on because he's sort of going for a raspy voice to differentiate the two, but goodness, what a performance, what a voice he came up with. There's so much to break down with this film. But first off, written and directed by Bong Joon-Ho, this adaptation of Mickey 17 is based on the book Mickey 7 by Edward Ashton. We'll explain the differences between the numbers of the titles and what it meant for the film versus the book. Rotten Tomatoes, it's pretty well liked across the board. 80% critic score, 81% audience score. Letterboxd, 7.3. I mean, IMDb is a 7.3. Letterboxd is a 3.8. Those are, pretty good numbers. Pretty good numbers. However, this movie was a bit of a risk for Warner Brothers. With a budget of $118 million, it really needs to pull about $250 to $300 million to become green, become profitable. And it has a projected opening weekend box office globally of $45 million, which is not fantastic. It's projected to hit below $20 million in North America in its opening weekend, which is not great news. Wow. 45 global. Damn. It already opened in South Korea a couple weeks ago. It had a huge opening in South Korea, $9 million its opening weekend there, which is very good for that country. And also that's 70% of the market share of the audiences there. And a quick synopsis of Mickey 17 wanting to get off Earth. The financially destitute and very naive Mickey Barnes signs up to be an expendable, a disposable clone worker on the human colony Niflheim. As an expendable, Mickey undertakes several dangerous assignments he is not expected to survive, with a new body being regenerated and reprinted each time he dies. During one such assignment, one of his clones, Mickey 17, one of his multiples, is incorrectly assumed dead and prematurely replaced. Mickey 17 finds his way back to the colony and meets his replacement known as Mickey 18. Under the rules of the colony, only one iteration of an expendable may exist at one time, and if Mickey 17 is discovered, both he and Mickey 18 will be destroyed forever. Both the previous and current version of Mickey Barnes have to grapple with the nature of being expendables and fight back against the oppressive leaders governing the new colony on Niflheim.
I think everybody was so curious what Bong Joon-Ho would do next, because he could have done, anything, and I love this choice, and it's got a really interesting little backstory. Brad Pitt is actually heavily involved in this film happening. His company, Plan B, they bought the rights to Mickey 7 before it was released. Before the novel was released, it was sent out to Hollywood. And Plan B purchased the rights through their deal with Warner Brothers. They have a distribution and production deal with Warner Brothers. And so they bought the novel. Their first choice was Bong Joon-Ho. I think because of some films like Snowpiercer and The Host and obviously Parasite. And Bong Joon-Ho had the synopsis of the book translated into Korean, and apparently once he read that synopsis, he said he wanted to do the film, and then from there they quickly translated the entire novel into Korean for him to read the entire novel, and then he began work on his adaptation.
It was before the novel was published.
Yeah.
You got an early draft from Edward Ashton of Mickey 7.
And he said that because people have been, it's such a long delay between his two films, Parasite and this film. So he actually he said he was working on this while he was doing like the touring of Parasite. So this has been long in development. And on top of that, he spent a year and a half working on a different film. He was going to make a film based on tragic events of a real situation. And he researched it and prepped it for a year and a half, but then he came to this crossroads creatively and morally. He's like, is it right morally to make a movie about this real story?
Do you know what it was?
He never divulged what it was, but he spent 18 months working on it, and it was going to be his next film, but then he shut it down. He's like, he called it like, he think it was morally unethical to make the film about these real people. And so he scrapped it and then moved into Mickey 17, and he's also wrote a animated film, which is his next slated film to come out is an animated film that he was writing around the same time as this. So that's why it's been so long since Parasite. He was working on 3 projects. One of them he ended up throwing away, an animated film that's still heavily in production right now, being animated right now, and then Mickey 17.
Plus, Mickey 17, don't forget, was supposed to come out a year ago. This movie's had multiple release date changes. They finished this a long time ago. So originally the film was supposed to come out March 29th, 2024, but it was taken off that schedule because of the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike. It was then rescheduled for January 31st, 2025, where it would have open 3 days earlier in South Korea, but was pushed back to April 18th, 2025 to take advantage of Easter weekend, and finally moved back forward again a little bit to March 7th this past weekend, 2025, swapping that latter date with Sinners. So on top of it being a risky film, this movie has been shuffled around the release date's quite a bit.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people, they've known it's existed, but maybe they forgot that it was coming out because it's been released it's been rumored to have so many different release dates. And again, going back to a risky film, $120 million budgets on this wild, zany, great novel from an amazing filmmaker who has been out of the zeitgeist for a bit in terms of name because of Parasite came out in 2019. It's been a long time since Parasite came out. You have one of the biggest stars in the world with Robert Pattinson, and this is the first live-action film that Robert Pattinson has been in since The Batman. He's been in an animated film. He voiced a character in The Boy and the Heron, the English adaptation, the English dub. But he hasn't starred in a movie or been in a movie since The Batman.
He took a break. Wow.
Took quite a break.
Yeah.
I believe it's because he had a kid. Probably need a break as well. But, we have 2 huge names in cinephiles world. But does everyone know, for general audiences, who Bong Joon-Ho is? I'm sure they've probably seen Parasites. But is there enough of a box office draw between Robert Pattinson and Bong Joon-Ho to get audiences in the theater? Hopefully this movie has great word of mouth because it's tracking pretty slow early. Another bad sign about its tracking, not to stay on bad stuff because I love this movie. We're going to talk so much great stuff about it, but just what's happening right now. On Wednesday, March 5th, Warner Brothers released the first 5 minutes of Mickey 17, which is never a good sign. That usually means they're tracking low at box office. They're trying to get people excited, trying to get ticket sales because they know opening weekends are so important to movies these days, especially big blockbusters that have a huge, huge budget with marketing as well. They have to pull about $300 million here, and it's not a great sign. Craven did the same thing at the end of the year last year. That usually happens with all those clips that were released too for a couple other movies. That means, the movie's tracking pretty low, and they're trying to get excitement drummed up. Hopefully, I hope this movie has a great word of mouth because everyone complains we get the same movie over and over again. Then we finally get a big budget, amazing sci-fi film, so unique, so zany, and people don't seem to be going to see it in theaters. I will say, though, it is rated R. Pattinson has a huge audience, but you could argue a lot of people in his audience are under 18 years old in North America, so they're less likely to go see a rated R film. Maybe their parents will take them. So I think that's also something I'm sure the studio wanted, a PG-13 rating, but I respect Bong. Sure, he wanted to keep it rated R because it does have some great graphic moments, lots of great intense situations and mature situations, but you can't help but realize that definitely had an effect on the box office.
Oh, absolutely does. But, this movie works best rated R because you need to really feel the visceral nature of the concept of a person who their job is to die. That's the job, and that's the brilliant concept from the author that Bong Joon-ho built upon. And I love the character. It's a fascinating thing because we've seen clones before. We've seen doppelgangers. We've seen twins. It's been done many times in cinema. But this is a really unique situation where the objective of the reason behind the cloning is for somebody who is an expendable. Their job is to put themselves at risk so that the people on the ship don't have to risk their lives doing something dangerous. And so that's his duty. And Mickey dies in so many various ways. And Bong Joon-ho built upon the novel, which was just called Mickey 7, because when the novel starts, the lead Mickey is the 7th iteration. In this film, no spoiler, obviously, Mickey 17 is our essential lead of the film. He's who is telling the story to us, essentially, is how you can look at it. And he's been through many iterations of death. And Bong Joon-ho said he built upon that. He changed it from 7 to 17 because he wanted it to feel like a routine, like a normal job. It's a redundancy. He's been through this many, many times before. And also to make it feel even almost boring because he's died so many times, which is just so ridiculous to think that dying can be boring and dying can be redundant. And that's such a genius concept, and I think it's played out so well in this movie.
I think it's smart, too, to have more. It's better for cinematic purposes. It's more entertaining. There's a great montage of death, basically, from first to second act transition in this movie, which we'll get to in more detail. But having more deaths, it's a bigger number. It's more exciting. But also it builds more character development of Mickey because he's been so much. But also for the audience, we feel for him so much more. We have so much more empathy for him and sympathy for him because we've seen him go through hell. We've seen him be poisoned over and over again. We've seen him get radiation poisoning on purpose from the people on the ship who treat him basically like a lab rat to an extent. There's more in the book about the social hierarchies of how people view Mickey on the ship. I think the script glossed over that a little bit. They could have done a little more. But overall, Mickey in this world is a different class of human being compared to everybody else because he's a multiple. He's a print job. He's got all these slang words against him. People look down on him. They think of him less than human because they don't think he's fully a person for a lot of them. A lot of the people on the ship, especially Kenneth, don't believe that he's a full human being.
That the hierarchy in the viewing someone as lower class is actually illustrated so many times in the film. Like, everybody views expendables as less than them. And even what's so fascinating is in this film, Mickey 18 views Mickey 17 that way, and he tries to kill him immediately. It's like he's looking at himself as like, you shouldn't be alive. You're nothing. It's time for you to die. And he tries to kill him almost immediately. And they imprinted that theme onto the character. Like, he's viewing himself. It's an absolute mindfuck. Like, he's viewing himself as less than him because he's the 17th iteration and he is now the 18th. So it's it's insane. Plus, it's also related to the creepers, the humans on the ship. Many of them view the creepers as less than human, lacking intelligence. So they should just kill them all. And I think Kenneth Marshall just views everybody as a lower class than he is. Hence him being, in a way, a very tyrannical ruler through the guise of love and safety and gospel and pride. He views everybody as a lower class than he does.
Also, Mickey 18's a lunatic.
Yes.
I love how insane Mickey 18 is to Mickey 17 because every Mickey is different. They're all unique. 17 seems the most stable, interesting version of what Mickey has been. But when we have Mickey 18, we have multiples, which means we have really two different people now. We have two different souls. And they're so different. And I like to wonder, like, why is 18 such a crazy nut job that he immediately wants to kill everyone? Murder this guy. He's all about murder. Kill this, kill that. And I think it's because if you've been reprinted 18 times, I'm sure at least one time statistically you're going to be out of your fucking mind.
Yeah. My theory about why Mickey 18 is so different is they show, because they print him up so many times, the lab scientists are so careless. And there's some great bits where at one point he's being printed up, but the guy didn't put the table down, so Mickey's falling out of the printer, and they're trying to catch him from falling out of the printer. And one guy, he's installing the memory tubes into his head. It's very advanced science. It's very advanced. Very advanced. And he sees a game being played at the table nearby. He wants to get in on the action, so he runs over, trips over a wire, which unplugs, and then he and the other scientists are like juggling to put that back into the brain. So I think that the carelessness of the scientists because they view him as nothing more than just an expendable meat puppet. They don't view him as human to be cared for. So I think that there's been so many careless instances like that we see, that something happened with Mickey 18's print job where like a wire went loose or a tubing, something happened, and it just barely changed his psyche enough to turn him into a lunatic. That was my theory.
That's possible. It's an interesting theory. I looked at it as every time he's being printed out, it's ambiguous what iteration of Mickey it is. It could be Mickey 3. It could be Mickey 16. It could be Mickey 10. I think it's just statistically you're gonna be insane if you live 17 lives, 18 lives. I think you're just gonna be nuts at some point. Plus everything he's been through. He's died 17 times. I think that's why he's got a screw loose in his head, just because at some point you're gonna go fucking nuts, and I think that's who Mickey 18 is. But it's such a fun thing. But I think purposefully, Bong, especially when Mickey's being experimented on, whether he's being treated for the vaccine, he's getting the virus from Niflheim.
Breathe it in.
All those parasites, all those viruses are getting inside, and every
orifice,
every bit of your lung. I think ambiguously he showed we don't know what number Mickey this is. It's just Mickey.
Okay, so that scientist, like the tall guy who's like seems to be like the head of the lab, right?
Yeah.
Did he seem familiar to you at all?
Insanely familiar. He's like Albert Brooks but younger.
He is in Mindhunter. He's the really tall killer with the mustache who he visits all the time. The really big guy with the big glasses.
Is it really? Wow.
That's that actor. I was watching this movie. We saw it twice, and I was like, who is this guy? His voice sounds so familiar. Something about him. I was like, I have seen him in something. I do not know what it is.
Oh my gosh.
But he looks, but he's the guy in Mindhunter, that really tall guy that scares the shit out of the lead.
Goodness.
And it's like, oh my God, it's like, he's so good. I'm so glad I figured it out. It was driving me crazy.
I forgot to look it up, yeah.
Yeah, but the cast is great. So we have obviously Pattinson, Stephen Yen, hilarious in this film as Timo.
In the book, he's Berto.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
it's Berto.
but it's Timo in the movie.
Patsy Ferran is Dorothy. She's that other scientist who is like the only scientist that's decent to Mickey. And then we have Naomi Ackie as Nasha. Daniel Henshall is that scientist we just talked about. He plays Preston. Mark Ruffalo is absurd and ridiculous, and Toni Collette is brilliant in this film. I love Ruffalo and Collette in this. They work so well together as Kenneth Marshall, the leader, and Yifa, who's the voice of reason in his ear, or her reason in his ear. And they play off each other so well. They're ridiculous. They're absurd. They're psychotic. But what I loved about them is as deranged and mad they are, power hungry they are, they're villains, obviously, but like they love each other so much. I thought their relationship was so funny because as cruel as they are, they're like, it's actually kind of sweet how much they love each other. If you think about it.
Ruffalo is so funny in this movie, steals every second of screen time. The hair, the teeth, the tan, the suits, the outfits, the pompous attitude. It's just so funny. It's a perfect egomaniac. This politician who's failed politician, Kenneth Marshall. He's lost every election, so now he's decided to set off on a colonial journey to a new world millions of miles away from Earth to set up a colony where he will be in charge. He'll be the lone authoritative figure. It's going to be an Earth-like place where it'll be human. The pure human race will be bred there, because a lot of other colonies, we learn from conversations, they're using other methods to make humans and breed humans, whether it's a chip inside an embryo, they say something like that. But he wants purebred humans on his perfect planets, and he views all of the women as basically just uteruses, even though he wouldn't admit it. Oh, my husband would never be anything terrible against a woman. No. Then Ilfa, played by Toni Collette so brilliantly as well and so funny as well, is just there. She's sort of like this evil devil on his right shoulder who's constantly whispering in his ear, controlling the things he says, helping him come up with the ideas, but making them seem like they're his ideas, which is so fun, who has this obsession with sauces, which usually end up being very red sauces that are stained with probable death and full of blood, which is a great metaphor for they're basically just leeching the life force and life blood of the community, of innocent lives, whether it's humans or other species. That's sort of what I think the sauces, which are explored quite a bit in this movie, represent.
Now, there's a huge kind of hidden connection, direct connection to Parasite. I'm not sure if you caught it. Did you catch anything in terms of scent in this movie?
Scent? Was there a peach somewhere?
No peach.
No peach.
Okay, so
So, when they print it, they smell themselves, right?
No. Well, kind of. You're getting there. So, who's the when we're talking about multiples, who was the first guy who was a multiple?
Yeah, he smells himself.
Yeah. So, what's that guy's name
in the movie?
In the movie.
Hold on, let me pull.
So
it up.
he's this guy. The term multiple came from him in the film. He was a scientist who helped create the printing of
Darius Blank.
Darius Blank. Okay, so Darius Blank, great story. It's so well. It's one of my favorite parts of the novel too. It's so funny and ridiculous, and in the novel they expand on it a lot more. He even creates his own like colony on a different planet of just like what is it, like thousands of him?
Yeah.
It's so funny and bizarre and just insane. I was hoping that was in the film, but they didn't go that far. But I think they did enough because the story is so fascinating. So Blank, one of the scientists who developed the technology, and authorities discovered that he was a serial killer who was killing people around the city, and they realized that when he was arrested and the act was committed again, they realized we have a multiple situation, so they ended up arresting all three versions of Blank. Now what happens is if you watch the film, I didn't catch it until the second viewing, he chooses his victims based on smell, but in repulsion. So just like in Parasite, when the higher class people are repulsed by the scent of the lower class, happens many times in that film, it's the same exact thing. Before he kills the homeless man in the street, he smells it, he gets his scent, and he's repulsed by it, and then he pulls out the knife. So the scent of the lower class is what motivates Darius Blank to kill.
And that's why when he prints himself, he smells his printing body and accepts that, oh, this is me. This is okay. I'm not going to kill this being because
pass the test.
Yeah, he passed the smell test. Yeah,
isn't that? I think it's such a brilliant connection to Parasite.
That's really sharp. And also, Steven Yeun as Timo is just so funny. And I think the cast overall was just so superb in this movie. Naomi Aki's awesome as Nasha, who quickly becomes Mickey's girlfriend on the ship. And the plot and the goal and motivation of Mickey being on the ship's really solid. Him and Timo getting the macaroon business. They take out a loan with...
Macarons are going to be more popular than burgers.
I think Darius Blank is actually the loan shark.
Okay, yeah, that's the loan shark. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to find the guy's name.
It's okay. Yeah, it's fine.
Sorry,
I'll
sorry
check
about
it up
that.
while you're...
Yeah, look up that guy's name. But Darius Blank's the loan shark. So Timo convinces him to take a loan because he says macaroon business is going to be booming. And then they go out of business. They have 4 weeks to pay Darius Blank.
Alan.
Does he have a last name or no? I can't remember from the movie.
I'll find it.
And basically, they have one option. They can stay on Earth where they'll have their limbs hacked off one by one with a dual chainsaw as Darius Blank watches and videotapes it for his amusement, which is the only thing that he enjoys because he has everything he could possibly need. Or they jump ship, hop on one of these ships that is going to a colony, and they get to leave Earth millions of miles away in the dust, and they are saved. And for Mickey, he'll do anything to get on that ship. Timo also already gets a job as a pilot. He got his learner's permit a few weeks before.
Lucky Timo.
How did he get it? Of course he got a permit. He got his permit just a couple weeks ago. And so Timo's got a job as a pilot. And then Mickey, the only way he can really get on the ship is to become an expendable, which he doesn't really understand what that is. He's like, yeah, I'll sign this, whatever. And that's why when the woman at the desk is like, wait, you signed up to be an expendable? And then he learns what it is eventually. That's a good way to get them on a ship. And it's a great way for plot to get it going, and also gives them reason to never want to be on Earth again. But also Earth is fucked. Mm-hmm. And the overhead speaker, when they're waiting to get into that ship, we have another random dust storm outside. So stay inside, wear your masks, basically, is what's saying on the loudspeaker, and you see a giant dust storm outside through the glass.
Alan Manikova. He's the multiple serial killer. That's what it is.
Thank you.
I love the design of the world, and I think that they just gave us just enough. We don't need to see another dystopian Earth ravaged by terrible weather.
Good point, yeah.
We don't need to see that. We get it. We understand it. It happens so many times. Like, we don't need to see the Earth deteriorating and like the storms happening. Yeah, it's like, we get it. It's been done 1,000 times. So all we got was the dust storm and then a couple lines of dialogue, and that we're good. That's all we need. That's it. Nothing more than that. It's short, it's sweet, to the point, sets up the world, and then we're good to go. And we're off to the races. This movie, especially the first act, moves at a really breakneck pace of the idea of the multiples. And this is really where the comedy starts really coming in, with the Mickey being totally unawares of what an Expendables really has to do, and then him being so distracted by the smell of the woman's hair that he's hardly even listening to what she's saying.
It's clever, yeah.
It's so smart, and
like a very provocative woman who, is kind of being flirty, kind of, but coaxing him into this ridiculously bad deal where he'll become an expendable. It's clever by the company that's running the ship to have this kind of person being the interviewer, exposing them to the rules of an expendable, getting him through the process, basically making him fall for her in like a day to get him to do this ridiculous job.
Now, there's something really interesting, and I did not see this. I found it online. There's a screenshot that someone took. Now, inside the cloning facility, there is a phrase that flashes on a computer screen that says, Mickey 1 was never found. So fans speculate, what happened to the original Mickey? Did he die before they even got to the spaceship? If he was never found? Because if he was never found, they were on a spaceship. Did somebody kill him and dispose of the body?
Maybe he ran.
Or something. It's such a cool little thing, and it's just one little nugget of information, but it poses so many questions, like what happened to the original Mickey? We think we see him die in the movie, but like if that's on the screen, what happened to essentially Mickey Prime?
So I think that's a fun little Easter egg. Obviously, Bong's movies are always layered. There's always secret clues hidden inside there. I'm sure once this movie's been out for a year, there'll be so much more analysis and so many more details will be picked up on. Just like with Parasite, you don't notice that the chairs are changing in that movie depending on how many people are in the house until you learn about it, really. You might notice it, but you don't notice it at the same time. So I think that it's a fun little thing. Like maybe the original Mickey got killed by Darius Blake. Maybe he ran after he got his information on there, and they just printed him up anyways and said, hey, even though you're Mickey 2, we're calling you Mickey 1. I think it's a fun little Easter egg, a little fun little piece of nugget to get people on a chase to find some more clues.
And let's just talk about Robert Pattinson for a bit, because he is nothing short of extraordinary in this movie. It is such a great performance. He does so much, and you really need an actor who has an immense range. And if you think about limitless range, where he goes through everything you can think of as an actor in this film, physically and emotionally, and he pulls it off. He's so believable. On top of that, the challenging shoot of filming clones in the same shot. But first off, I love the design of the character, and I love the voice. And if we read the novel before we saw the film and before we saw the trailer, and Mickey in the novel, he's naive. He's kind of a bumbling... he's not an idiot, but he's not the smartest. He's not the sharpest tool in the shred.
But he's more normal than the movie.
Exactly.
He's more of a normal person.
Yeah, but he is like, he doesn't have much confidence in himself.
He lacks skills.
Yeah.
He's not good at anything. Yes. He's just a guy.
He's not a great hero, which I really loved about the novel. And then in this film, Robert Pattinson really dialed it up and created so many great personalities, and especially between 17 and 18. But first off, I love the look of Mickey. I love the bowl cut. There's just something about that bowl cut. It just it felt right for Mickey. And then the voice, when I first heard it in the trailer, I was like, oh my God, that sounds just like Mickey. Bong Joon-Ho said that when he first met Pattinson, he met him in LA at a cafe for their first meeting. And he said that when Pattinson walked through the door, he said he saw Mickey. So he said Pattinson apparently just fit exactly what Bong Joon-Ho was looking for, and then they developed the voice and hair. Now, for the hair, Pattinson said he used Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber as inspiration for the look of this character and the performance as well. So hence, if you think about it, the hair, it's very much like the Lloyd bowl cut. And on top of that, I love we had an interview with them, obviously. We've talked about it a bunch, and James asked, do you do something to get into the mindset of Mickey 18 versus Mickey 17? And then Robert Pattinson ended up saying that he did have a little tiny snaggletooth cap that they put on for 18, and he said that was able to that helped him really get into that character almost immediately. He said it was like pushing a button where once they put that tooth cap on, it's just very slight detail, but it changed everything about his physicality. And it's just like I love how different he made them. And in terms of the comedy of both the characters, he said he also used Ren and Stimpy as inspiration, and as well as Tom and Jerry. So Tom and Jerry, because Tom and Jerry are attacking each other constantly, doing terrible things to each other, but it's played for comedy and for laughs. They're like hurting each other all the time. And so he was inspired by that aspect to the Tom and Jerry series for 17 and 18, and then Ren and Stimpy with the very different personalities between the two lead characters. And it's just an incredible performance.
Nasha, played by Naomi Aki, is also really terrific. Great character, really well adapted for the movie as well. Nasha's basically an agent for the ship. She's an all-around police officer, firefighter, medic, soldier, all in one. There's multiple of these. Kai is one of these agents as well. And her and Mickey immediately hit it off. You know, the first day on the ship, Mickey got lucky enough to meet his soulmate, Nasha. When everyone's going crazy for Kenneth Marshall, he's like, what is going on? I feel like I'm in the wrong place. All these people are going crazy for this politician. A couple of people are like shaking their heads like, what is going on? And they met and eventually started their romantic and intimate relationship, which is really endearing. I think that this movie, despite being so crazy and zany and satirical about so many real powerful topics, whether it's politics, social hierarchy, control, fascism. This movie has a lot of heart. And Nasha and Mickey 17, for me, are the heartbeat of the movie. And Nasha becomes a great hero alongside Mickey, who has courage deep down inside of him. And it seems like Nasha knows it's there. It takes all these crazy circumstances for Mickey 17 to find that courage. I mean, it takes courage to go out and die anyways, even if he's tricked and duped into it. But Mickey is able to find that courage and able to fight for something. And he's going to try to save not just humans on this planet Niflheim, but he's trying to save the creepers as well. Because I love the way this movie opens up. It's a bit of a bookend with the second act, where it opens with Mickey, after he's fallen down the cave, wakes up in the snow, and Timo leaves him there to die.
Like a flamethrower.
It's in deck. Oh, Weapons is going to be happy to see this. Steven Yeun's so fucking funny in this movie.
He's great in this.
Like
come on, just fucking do this.
Just
one thing for me. Just fucking do this one thing for me.
The fake sincerity is just, it's perfect. He's so good. Deserved Oscar-nominated actor in the past for sure. Timo leaves him there as he's about to die. He's like, I shouldn't have to take the risk. Yeah, man. Yeah, you shouldn't have to take the risk. I agree. And so he leaves him. Plus, the rope doesn't go long enough. All right, see you tomorrow. Mickey 17, or maybe Mickey 18. And then the creepers come, and they, as he's narrating, now I'm about to die. I love all the narration in this movie as well. I think this is what the Batman needed more of.
Yes, more narration.
Because this feels like a Scorsese-style movie with so much narration. Because obviously Bong's such a massive fan of the GOAT Scorsese. And then we basically open up to the past on Earth and how he got the job, until we come back to what put Mickey in those circumstances of falling through the cave as he's trying to take a bite of his rationed food and meets the creepers. But the creepers save him. That's what we find out. The creepers saved Mickey. They put him out to be picked up basically and find his way back to the human base.
Humans.
And we learned that the creepers, despite being giant and kind of scary looking in the opening of the movie, are really peaceful creatures despite being incredibly dangerous to humans, because think of what they've had to evolve into to survive on this planet, which is just it's just desolate snow. It's just full of rock, and they're able to chew through rock basically. They're insanely powerful. They have that secret power where they say they can make humans' brains and eyeballs explode. So funny, but they are so cute and cuddly. The little creepers,
yeah, they are
the best. I forgot to bring.
Where's the creeper?
It's in my room.
Oh man,
Warner Brothers sent us a creeper
Did you
doll.
sleep with it?
No,
it's in your room.
It's in my room. Yeah.
With it?
No,
I want it.
Okay,
you can have it.
I was gonna put it on the set somewhere.
You can have it.
I just keep forgetting to put it on the set.
Put the face hugger around it.
We had a party the other night, so I didn't have it out in the house. It didn't fit the theme.
the plush creeper.
But the creepers are so adorable. They're so sweet, but they are peaceful. However, I like how they have their own civilization and their own rules, where basically we learn by the end of the film, if you kill one of ours, you have to kill one of yours.
I'm really glad you brought up snow multiple times, because something about this film that I loved was the look of the snow. And if you grow up in a snow-laden area, especially in the wintertime, and you watch Hollywood movies, the snow usually looks like fake bullshit. And the snow looked so good in this film. And on top of that, like, you could actually see like snowflakes falling on actors' faces and then melting in a couple of seconds. And I was like, oh my God, this looks so good. And a good portion of this film takes place outside in the Arctic environment. And the movie opens with like the ice on his goggles that he's wiping off his face, and he's covered in snow. And I was watching the film. I'm like, how do they do the snow? Because the snow looks so great. It looks good on the ground.
It's so white, too.
Yeah, it's very white because the only time it doesn't look great is when they're blowing snow off the tires of the big tractor, and it's like it's too loose for it to be snow.
Too powdery?
Yeah, too powdery. But otherwise, the snow looks really good in this film. Now, they did use something fake, but they did use real snow, too. So they shot this in Leavesden in Cardington. And in Cardington, there's a huge soundstage that's used for productions all the time. For example, Chris Nolan used it for the Narrows in Batman Begins, so they built the entire Narrows set in this gigantic soundstage, which is massive, in the middle of nowhere in Cardington in the UK. And people don't love to shoot there because it's freezing there, even when you're shooting inside, because it's in the middle of the UK, especially in the winter. It's cold as fuck. But Bong Joon-Ho wanted to shoot there because he wanted to take advantage of the cold. Now, they built this entire soundstage as the Arctic set, and they poured the most amount of salt ever used in a film on the floors of the soundstage. So all of the snow on the ground in this film is actually salt, as well as much of the snow that you see interacting with the characters. So most of it is salt, and it looks really good, and there's a tangibility to it, and it's interacting with the actors in a good way, in a natural way, rather than like fluff or powder or paper or whatever. And on top of that, Pattinson said in an interview that sometimes it did snow, and they would let the snow pour into the set, into the soundstage. So sometimes they were actually filming with real snow falling from the sky. And I think it looks really good.
You could argue, it's a different planet, different molecular chemical makeup in the atmosphere. So maybe the snow is a little salty on Niflheim.
Great point.
You know what I mean? So maybe even though it looks super white and super photogenic, and sometimes looks not artificial, but it doesn't look like snow because it's salt, maybe that's just what snow would be like on Niflheim.
That's a great point. That's absolutely, I think, scientifically possible.
No big deal. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know you were so smart, man.
Pretty good at chemistry.
But I love the snow, and it looked great because a lot of this film takes place in the snow, and they really nailed it.
Yeah, it looks great. Someone who thinks they're really smart in this movie, Kenneth Marshall, who I will say has a really good idea and plan with, all right, so this crazy guy who helped invent the printing machine of humans to create multiples. Because of him, we're going to ban human printing on Earth. But Kenneth Marshall deems, after he's like, thank you for the invitation.
You were subpoenaed?
After he's doing his trial, he has this plan. He has this plan that he's going to go, all right, well, I say that human printing is the devil's work. It's terrible. It's evil. However, there is a good use for it. We can use it. And so isn't the female person who works for the company as well. We can use it off planet in space where every colony gets an expendable program where that person is a multiple who gets printed over and over again. And because they're away from Earth, it's like, it's legal. I mean, what's going to happen? You're not going to get prosecuted.
It's like the ocean.
Yeah, exactly. It's like parts of the ocean.
Yeah, parts of the ocean.
What's
What maritime law?
Not maritime law. It's
open ocean law.
It's something. What is that term for anything's legal in specific waters? Hold
on. Something. I'll say something while you look it up. A lot of people are saying that this is an impression of Trump. There are aspects to it. He does the Trump dance.
Yeah, he does do the Trump dance.
And some of the
international waters.
International waters. And some of the cadences of the performance for sure, but Ruffalo and Bong Joon-Ho said that it's not an impression of Trump, that Bong Joon-Ho wrote this character and changed it from the novel and interpreted it as a way of, he's actually talking about a lot of leaders from the past, especially in South Korean history, in that he says the audiences tend to put what's happening right now onto characters.
For sure, yeah.
Which makes sense, and it seems like, it's natural.
I think people saw like the pink hats too.
Yeah. It's very natural, and his supporters wear red. I get it. But he did clarify it is not Trump impression, and he wrote as as a combination and an amalgamation of a lot of world leaders and especially South Korean leaders from the past. And I think that makes a lot of sense. You definitely got some things, but I think Ruffalo did something that was not an impression. He just used little ticks here and there. And he's so funny. I love the fake teeth, the huge tan, the outfits he wears. And it's really great. Bong Joon-Ho was discussing the costume design. So Toni Collette and Mark Ruffalo's characters often have pink in their wardrobes. So Toni Collette wears different shades of pink dresses, and then Ruffalo's character wears accents of pink to match her outfits. And he said that the only times you see this color, the color of pink and shades of pink, is with these two characters. You never see it on another character. You never see it any other places of the ship. He said they did this on purpose because they wanted to have these two singled out as being different, and it really showcases their insanity and how they don't fit in with normal society. And so I think that the color pink, you feel subconsciously, you do feel something like it's off. You don't see that color anywhere else.
That's a really good point. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense because green and sort of like that greenish blue are the main colors of the film, whether it's the walls of the ship, the wardrobe that every type of officer or worker on the ship wears, different variations of that green. Like, I love that color green that Mickey's always wearing, especially his sort of third act suit that they're both wearing. Like, that's an awesome color, but that's like the whole ship. And so it's sort of like desaturated of color besides that green, some yellows here and there. Anything red you see on screen is either blood or it's inside the private chambers of Kenneth and Ilfa, or also red from, electronics basically as well. And also the red numbers on Mickey's chest. It's like every time you see red.
Yeah. And so in the
incinerator, sorry.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And in the lighting, so he says that in Kenneth's home, in Kenneth and Ilfa's home, you get this extravagant design, these colors, and these fixtures that are located nowhere else on the ship. Obviously, he wanted to have that separation, and you see that contrasted in that sequence when they're getting into the atmosphere of Niflheim. It cuts from their apartment to Mickey in Nosh's apartment, which is barren and cold and plastic and just a beige, which contrasts really well. But also with the lighting, Bong Joon-Ho made sure all of the spaceship sets were lit with blues and greens, except for the laboratories, which they lit with blues and yellows. He said it is nothing symbolic. He said he just likes the way blue and yellow looks together, essentially. So that's not really symbolic. But what is symbolic is in the production design, they wanted to allude to the idea of Mickey's job, which is die, rebirth, over and over again. It's this never-ending cycle, so it's a loop and it's a circle. And so in the set design of the lab, he says he and his designer Fiona, they purposely put as many circles as they could. That's why the printer is a circle. That's why the what do you call that, the fire lava pit where
I can't remember the name, but I'm just gonna call it the incinerator.
Okay, whatever it's called, the incinerator is circle. He wanted that to be a symbol. It's like the circle of death and the circle of life, and they contrast each other with their colors. It's a mint blue for the printer, and then dark orange and red for the incinerator. And then also there are different things like light fixtures and other architectural elements that are circles within the laboratory because they wanted to illustrate the idea of this loop of Mickey's life of this never-ending death, rebirth.
Yeah, I can't remember the name that they called the...
Yeah, it's got a specific name. Yeah.
We'll just call it the incinerator from now.
The scene with Timo is great.
You want to keep dealing, motherfucker? What you fucking say? All right, let's take a break. Run to our intermission. There's still so much to talk about with Mickey 17. I also want to talk about a lot of the critiques that I've been seeing with a lot of reviews because I'm a little curious and a little confused by some of the reactions.
Did we watch the same film?
So this movie is pretty odd. But all right, before we continue, the best way to support Raiders of the Lost Podcast is to become a patron at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. You get access to weekly bonus episodes of the show. Every single episode posts there ad-free as well with no commercial breaks at all. You get access to our Discord and all kinds of other awesome perks for as little as an annual membership of just $10. One-time payment. A whole year access to our Discord. To our Patreon. It's a pretty good deal if you ask me. Another great way to support the show, leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple. These ratings help us get seen by new listeners. They add reputability to the show. People will give us a shot because we have several thousand ratings and reviews that many of you amazing listeners have left. So leave those reviews, leave those ratings. I'm going to read a written review on Apple Podcasts because it's my favorite part of every single week of my life is reading those written reviews that y'all leave us on Apple. And also, sharing us is the best way for our podcast to grow organically. Word of mouth is integral to our show. So share episodes with those you love that love movies as well. Share our Instagram clips, TikTok clips, YouTube engagements, massive, super important. Subscribe on YouTube. You know how to find us. We're easy to look up. It's not a yellow book. It's all over the internet. You'll find us. Just follow us everywhere. Share us all over the place. And thank you so much, everyone.
This episode, of course, is sponsored by our friends at movieposters.com, the number one place to get your posters online today. Be sure to use our promo code Raiders10. That'll get you 10% off your order immediately and always. They have a huge selection of pretty much every film and TV show imaginable in their inexhaustible poster library. From your favorite Hollywood blockbuster, like Mickey 17, to your favorite classic film from the 40s, 30s, 20s, whatever. They also have all sorts of international posters and even alternate prints of many of your favorite films. For all of the cinephile collectors out there, they have an insane amount of lobby cards and original movie poster print posters of many of your favorite classic films. These are collector's items that gain value as the years go by. So if you are building up your collection, get them now. They have the originals, the original movie poster prints, as well as all sorts of sizes, framing, and even backlighting of double-sided movie posters for your poster needs. Movieposters.com is the number one place for all posters. So all you film fans out there, go to movieposters.com, use our promo code Raiders10 to get 10% off your order right now.
All right, let's begin our intermission and begin with the movie quote competition. Are you ready?
Ready.
Tell me, future boy, who's president in the United States in 1985? Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, the actor. Then who's vice president? Jerry Lewis?
Back to the Future.
Yeah.
All right. The man who pulls the lever that breaks your neck will be a dispassionate man, and that dispassion is the very essence of justice. For justice, delivered without dispassion, is always in danger of not being justice.
When John Booth catches you, you hang. Hateful Eight.
Hell yeah.
Is it John Booth or John?
No, it's John Booth.
Yeah.
I think John the Hangman Booth.
Yeah. Something like that. Guess this movie release here, Anthony. The Devil's Advocate.
1998.
97.
I win! What year did Justified start? Great TV show.
Wow. I feel like that was a while ago.
Great show.
2009?
Close. It was 2010.
Wow.
On FX.
Oh my God.
It was a good
Holy
one.
fuck. Excuse my language. That was just so long ago.
Yeah, you're old, man.
Anthony, what movie stars Samuel L. Jackson and Vin Diesel?
What? It's not Snakes on a Plane.
Definitely not.
Ha! Vin Diesel, Sam Jackson. What the fuck? They're in a movie together? Huh. Have you seen the Vin Diesel, the Sharks toys? He was in a commercial for like shark toys, and it's really great.
Back in the day?
Yeah, people are posting it online. Like shark action figures. What movie are they in together? Hold on, Sam Jackson, Vin Diesel. What movies has Vin Diesel been in? Is it a courtroom film?
No.
Damn. I don't know, man.
Triple X.
Oh my God, he's in Triple X. Sam's in Triple X?
Yeah, he's like the Nick Fury kind of character.
Oh my God, that's right. Oh man.
Oh man, this shark commercial is
Yeah,
hysterical. He's got a leather vest on.
Yeah,
like Stone
he's
Cold.
like advertising. He's like the spokesperson going through the toys.
We had these.
Yeah, we had
Street Sharks.
Yeah, it was a TV show and action figures.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
we had Street Sharks, man.
Yeah, it was like these
yes.
these jacked sharks with like cars, and
He's got a shark tooth
I think
necklace.
I think they fought crime or something.
Holy crap, 1994.
Yeah, It's
This
really
is
good.
amazing.
You're gonna watch it. He's like full into it.
I'm looking at
he's
it right
committed.
now.
He's committed.
Man, I remember these things. They were so cool.
Yeah. It's great.
He's just like flexing so hard on camera. Yeah, we got these sharks right here. All
Do
right.
you know how he was discovered?
Yeah, for well, was this the Saving Private Ryan thing?
You know how Spielberg discovered him?
Because he made a movie.
Yeah, he made a short film,
Gotcha.
and he stood outside of the a hotel in Beverly Hills, like the Hilton or something, and he would just pass it to he would pass like DVDs of his short film to anybody who would like listen to him.
Mm-hmm.
It eventually got to Spielberg. Spielberg watched it and loved it, and then
that's
cast him
crazy.
for Saving Private Ryan.
That's insane.
He was just like one of those guys on Hollywood Boulevard trying to pass out a mixtape.
That's crazy. Can't do that today though with that hotel.
No way, they'd kick you out.
Not Hollywood Boulevard. That still happens.
Oh,
on
yeah,
Hollywood
you can
Boulevard.
do it on Hollywood
I'm at the
Boulevard.
hotel. All right. What are we on now? Quiz. What's yours?
You don't have one?
Mine was a triple X.
Oh yeah, it's Triple X. That's right. Totally blanked. Walton Goggins co-starred in what popular TV series in the 2000s?
The Shield.
Yes, correct. Yes,
Let's go.
great show. Aired for 7 years.
That was a good
7
one.
seasons.
That was a good
That
one.
was great. Started in 2002.
Man, we had some good cop shows in the 2000s,
Dude,
man.
The Shield was fucking great.
Shield, The
That was
Wire
a
was
good
great.
show.
CSI was in its prime.
Yeah,
Even though it's
Good.
not cops technically.
they acted like cops.
Yeah, they had guns.
Yeah.
Scientists
They
with,
all
scientists
had
with
guns. Yeah,
Doing interrogations.
A fingerprint analyzer had a gun and interrogated criminals. Okay.
Anthony, do we have any haters this week?
Oh,
Any
yeah.
unsubscribes? I'm going to pull up a written review from Apple while you do that.
I love the unsubscribes. 1 second, my phone's locked.
Even though that CSI, I loved it. Even though every episode you're like, this is ridiculous that he has a gun, but still loved it.
All right, first up, we have everyone's favorite comic nerd. Why would you tell me to lessen the number of Johns? I don't friggin' want to kill my grandpa. Unsubscribed.
That was a funny bit.
Biscardi. At age 27, I finally know the difference between who's and whose. God bless you, Anthony Deveney. Subscribed. All right, David on Westerns. Just catching up on some old episodes. Great list, although I was sad to see Young Guns didn't get a mention. And no, Back to the Future Part 3, unsubscribed. They're both good. They're both good. Clemenstone. Watching an old episode, a fantastic episode, but I'm unsubscribing because you said Toy Story 2 is the weakest.
I mean,
I stand by it.
it's between 2 and 4 for me.
I stand by
because 1 and 3 are great. I think 3 is awesome.
They're all good.
1's the best
they're
no
all,
matter
they're
what.
all good. All right, next up. Brian Salvador. Ouch. I guess after that acceptance speech, I don't even know who's on top of the Raiders' most hated list. John Cusack or Adrian Brody. Either way, I'm sure they'll both be unsubscribing.
Yeah, Anthony went off on Adrian.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's the longest speech in Oscar history, bro.
It was
Relax.
5 minutes and 40 seconds.
Relax,
not
man.
6. But it's still pretty long. Did you
Longest-
see the memes with Killian?
Yes.
Killian just like standing there, just like uncomfortable. Even though they're
frozen.
friends,
Yeah,
you know
they're
they're on
pals.
picky together, but still, the memes are so funny. Whenever Killian's just not doing anything and just you're watching his face and just what's going through his head because he's just like, I don't want to be here right now.
Oh, my God. It's great. And then that's it for unsubscribes. Yeah, that's it.
All right, we have a great 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts from Cameron Huggins. Thank you, sir, for leaving this, Cameron. Invasion of the Attention Grabbers, 5 stars. I've been hooked on these guys since 2020. Holy crap, that's a long time. And honestly, I can't get enough. James and Anthony bring such a refreshing perspective to every film, even the ones most podcasts would tear apart. Unlike others who act like anything less than Blade Runner 2049 or Dune Part 2 is a crime against cinema, that's a good point. Everything needs to be a masterpiece these days.
Yeah,
I totally
it's
agree with
insane.
you. These two celebrate every movie for what it is. Their episode on the Social Network literally made me hit pause on everything and dive into that masterpiece for the first time.
Yes.
I had to take DeMario's advice and download Apple Podcasts to leave a review. DeMario started a revolution.
Let's go.
If you don't have an iPhone or a Mac, all you need is an email, and you can sign up for Apple Podcasts to leave a review on iTunes. If you're not listening to these guys, you're seriously missing out. Honestly, I stopped listening to music so much at work to catch their episodes. Damn, Cameron. What an episode. What a review. Thank you so much. 5 stars. So much detail there. I really appreciate it.
That's really sweet.
And I agree.
Yeah.
A lot of people act like every movie has to be the best thing they've ever seen in their entire lives. It's like when people go to restaurants and the meal has to be the best thing that they could possibly get at the restaurant, which, I mean, I'm guilty of often looking on Yelp photos, but sometimes I'm just like, fuck it, this looks great, let's get this.
Yeah.
I don't have to, like, look at every photo of every option and in the reviews of each one.
How, like,
People treat movies like that today.
Imagine rating every meal you eat.
That'd be
It's a lot.
That's a lot. But yeah, I feel like that's how people treat movies often. Like, every time they go to the movies, it has to be the best thing they've ever seen or bust.
But it's not. It wasn't like that when we were growing up.
It was not.
We never were like, oh, that's a 68 out of 100. What? What does that even mean? What does that mean?
What does that mean? And then The Godfather's like 80 out of 100. It's like, what does that mean?
Yeah, I just love movies, and yeah, I mean, you mentioned that Mickey 17's getting some pretty confusingly bad reactions, which I was just looking through it quickly, and I was like, I mean, I don't know, I thought it was great.
What do you guys want?
I thought it was fantastic.
What do you want?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I do not know. I don't know. Who knows, man? It's like we have an original creative sci-fi film and nobody's seeing it.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
No, like everybody complains we want original stories, and then an original story comes out and it's great and nobody sees it.
Well, let's talk about that in a sec. Real quick, my streaming recommendation is going to be Snowpiercer. It's on Sling and AMC TV from Bong Joon-Ho.
Slinging it.
Slinging
the little meat, the meat packs. What is it? The Jellos, the meat Jellos.
What's your rec?
American Honey on Max from Andrew Arnold.
Gotcha. All right, let's get into keeping that segue about the critiques of this film, which, of course, every movie's subjective. I think the most common critique I've been seeing is a combination of runtime. People have been saying they feel it in the second half of the film, as well as I've been seeing people say that they got bored during the movie in the second half of the film, towards the end. And, I mean, I didn't feel that personally. I saw this movie 3 times, twice on my TV, because we got screeners in February. But they were watermarked. It had my name on it, so I was like, finally, to see it in IMAX was such a great experience. It was like seeing it for the first time. I loved it. Even on the third viewing, I was like, this is amazing. I had such a great time with it. I think the first half is definitely got more energy, maybe a higher entertainment quality, because New World, the narration really works with Mickey. We're seeing the montage of him on Earth, what him and Timo go through, and then the montage of death, basically, of Mickey getting radiation poisoning, getting his hand cut off, being treated like less than human inside the lab, like a lab rat, being poisoned consistently, being tested for to create the vaccine so that people can breathe on Niflheim. Like, that's all really entertaining, really fun. The sequences with Nasha, the intimate sequences, the fun they have on the ship, that secret, meeting Kenneth and Ilfa. It's a really exciting first half. Lots of energy. Goodfellas style energy. Narration, good scenes, lots of consistent forward motion. The second half, I didn't feel that way at all. It felt like a different movie. Parasite, it was like that too.
Parasite is different. Yeah, second half.
Parasite, second half, totally different movie. Once you find out what's actually going on and you're in on the scheme as well with them, totally different film. I mean, when the rain starts, it's a different movie, really. I think that people, I guess they just don't know what they want anymore, because it just makes no sense to me. If you didn't love the movie, that's fine, but it's still worth seeing. It's still worth going to the theater and checking this out. There's not a lot of movies out in theaters right now.
No.
I mean, a lot of movies that are, getting a secondary pickup from the Oscars, like Anora's up 854% in the box office. People are going back to see that. Flow is still in theaters. So right now, there's not a ton of new releases to see. And this is the movie to see right now. And it's a great theater experience. I just didn't feel that slag. I didn't feel a runtime. I was invested in the characters. I was fascinated by the multiples on the ship. There were some things that I wish were done a little differently, for sure. I think it would have been a little more fun to explore Mickey 17, Mickey 18 a little longer, trying to keep that a secret. like when Kai gets in the situation, because it immediately goes to the assassination attempt on Kenneth right away, pretty quick.
And in the novel, they do live with that ration plan.
Yeah, so I would have liked to see more of 17 and 18 living in secret with Nasha knowing that, and even maybe Kai works in there. But it's a quicker film. We gotta get the plot moving. I would have liked to see a little more emphasis on the importance of calories and the rations, because Mickey's rations keep getting halved and halved and halved. That's a big part of Mickey's life in the book, and it really is kind of glossed over in the movie for me a little bit. I wanted to see the impact of that on him, but it wasn't really there. Maybe he's like half awake constantly because he's got no energy, but you gotta keep the plot moving. So even though there were things that I would have liked to see explored outside of just Mickey 17 and Mickey 18, and then in the assassination attempt, I still think it's a really good second half of a movie.
Yeah, I thought I was never bored. I mean, what's boring about like a planet of innocent animals about to be exterminated and trying to stop that? I think that sometimes the bombastic nature of mainstream movies now has created an expectation we need something crazy to happen, something unbelievable to happen almost constantly. When audiences watch a movie like this where it's more character based, even though what's more extravagant and extraordinary and escapist than this? To find this boring, I think it's odd, and also because this is filmed. The language of the filmmaking in this is very strong and it's intentional, and it's so well done. It's not made to constantly keep you entertained. And this is a film that it's not just an entertainment roller coaster ride. It's a movie that has a lot to say, and it's a movie that's a character piece, and it's a movie that illustrates and parallels everything happening a lot of things happening in the world, past and present. So I think I just can't. I find it hard to understand that a lot of people find this movie boring.
Yeah, but like you're right. It has so much to say, so many great messages. Of course, a lot of Bong Joon-Ho's movies have a lot to say about capitalism, and this movie is just like that as well, but it also has a lot to say about, it's referencing a lot of things in our world, this sort of corporate religion, this sort of cult, reminded me of Scientology so well, so quickly. You don't know if it's a religion or a business at the same time. It's the same thing. Clearly, fascism is there as well. I didn't pick up on this when I was watching the screeners because there's pretty low resolution. It's like 1080p screen mirroring to my TV, so it didn't look amazing. But when I was in IMAX, I immediately picked up on the symbol of the Niflheim's crew. Mm-hmm. It's basically a reference to a swastika in a lot of ways. It's just
is it? I didn't catch it.
It's basically like straight lines in right angles. In a different pattern, but it reminded me of a fascist symbol like a swastika with the Nazi party. So I picked up on that when I was watching it in IMAX. So that had a lot to say about that. There's a lot to say about consciousness and human and what it means to have a soul. Does Mickey have a soul, even though he's being reprinted over and over and over again? Did all of those Mickeys have different souls than this Mickey? Is Mickey 17 a completely original version, or is he an exact replica, the exact same soul? However, when there's multiples, does that mean now there's two souls? Which for me, that's exactly what I believed when I watched the film, or it seems like that's what they're going for. Mickey 17, Mickey 18, completely different souls, which is why Mickey 17, when Mickey 18 is trying to push him down the compactor, the incinerator, he's basically saying, he asks him, like, are you afraid to die? You've died so many times before. What are you afraid of? He's like, yeah, before that, they would just print me out and I'd come back out again. But this time it's different. Now that we're multiples, when I die, and that's it for me, and now it's your turn.
The new Mickey's already here, so now it's evidence that I'm not going to be reborn. And that's what's scary for him. He's like, I'm not going to, maybe I have been appearing again. It's like the Prestige. It's like maybe I have been appearing again on The Prince, or maybe I've not been appearing again. But at 18 being there is evidence that when I die, that's it for me. So that's the significance of Mickey 18 showing up and creating the true fear of death, because now it's not the fear of death, it's the fear of non-existence.
Yeah. And a little detail in the book that they don't talk about really in the movie is, but well, they kind of do, but in case anyone's confused about it, every time Mickey dies, before he's dead and before he goes on these missions, he gets his memories backed up. So every regeneration of Mickey. It's basically been updated software in a lot of ways. His memories have been backed up to the most recent version. That's why when he gets reprinted as 18 thinks he's dead.
Yeah.
He doesn't remember not dying. You know what I mean? The last thing he remembers is before the mission when his memories got backed up. So he doesn't even remember going on that mission. That's why he says, Timo says, by this time you should be coming out one of those creepers' assholes, basically. Because his software, his memory has been backed up at that time.
Yeah. I think that it was really clever using that brick for, like, it's basically a giant flash drive, and it's a brick. It was very cute. And another thing that's illustrated, another main theme in our humans' effect on nature is present in a lot of Bong Joon-Ho films, whether it be Okja or Snowpiercer or The Host. And in this film, it's obviously very similar to Okja in terms of the consumption of animals to a degree where it's become just factory and it's become meaningless, the effect that we have on animals. And so you see that through Toni Collette's character, where she just literally slices the tail off of a living animal and blends it up to make a new sauce. And I think it's I wouldn't say it's anti-eating meat, this movie. It's not like saying you have to be a vegan, but it does show how ridiculous, in a way, it's objectively kind of ridiculous that we slaughter animals and eat them. And this film shows like an instance of that if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you're coming into someone else's home and you're killing them and cutting off their tails to consume them. It's insane. Yeah. It's madness.
Where are the aliens? You idiot. And let's talk about
But I mean, Bong Joon-ho's never been subtle.
Yeah.
He's always been like that. I mean, think about Snowpiercer. One of the craziest lines from that movie is babies taste the best.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's never been subtle.
Yeah. And I think they did a really extraordinary job with the filming of the doubles, of the multiples with two Pattinsons. And from our interview with them, as well as looking at a lot of stuff online, their interviews as well as people's theories, there isn't enough behind the scenes and breakdowns of the film to really understand exactly how they did it. But it looks like, Alien Covenant, I think with Fassbender, I think they did a lot of what they did with Alien Covenant, where you have a body double. They did have a body double, and they would perform the scene, multiple versions of the scene with Fassbender in both roles, and then with the body double in both roles. And so they definitely did the same thing with Pattinson in this, using motion-controlled robotic cameras so that the camera does the exact same movement every time, and probably making sure, because Pattinson said he and the double, that he was trying to do exactly what Pattinson did in a take for his take, but it was a challenge because Pattinson was pretty unpredictable with his movements. And so having your two actors, your actor and your double, try to perform the blocking in as accurate a way as possible every time, so that the compositing and the blending together of all the different versions of the take can be as seamless as possible. So it looks like there wasn't one way they did it. It seems like there were multiple strategies and multiple physical blocking scenarios and camera scenarios to achieve the effect, probably on a scene-to-scene basis.
Yeah, it seemed like they probably did a lot of just face replacement with a body double for a lot of it, especially, they have a lot of scenes where they're touching each other and like have an arm wrapped around them. So those sequences, it's definitely a body double face replacement, probably a mix of a lot of things. But, I think they're being vague on purpose because it looked so good.
It looks great.
And, you don't always want to give up your visual effects secrets, I would think. It's like a magician. You don't want to always tell everything about what your process is until maybe like several years down the road. But yeah, it seemed seamless to me. I didn't pick up on anything. It always looked awesome. Because, when we revisited The Social Network recently, you could definitely pick up on instances where, it didn't always fit. The face replacement wasn't always perfect on Armie Hammer on top of the stunt actor, the body double they were using, the other actor. It wasn't always perfect. You could kind of catch glimpses of that other actor's face at times with different angles. But with this movie, not a single frame, it didn't look like Pattinson in both shots.
Even with the fights and the wrestling and the interactions, it was really impressive. And I think it also Ridley Scott's work and that team's work in Alien Covenant possibly could have paved the way for how good it was in this film. Because
probably.
Fassbender literally kisses himself in that movie, and it looks real. So I think that this is probably the best that it's ever been done.
So much more real than that Jonah Hill movie where they didn't kiss, but they did it with CGI to make their lips kiss.
Which one?
He was
What
in
is
this corny like rom-com. I think was it Eddie Murphy, Jonah Hill. Hold on, what was this?
Oh, was it like a recent one where he's dating his daughter?
Yeah.
So what happened?
Hold on, let me double check. Was it Eddie Murphy in it?
Yeah, Eddie Murphy played
Jonah
the
Hill,
dad.
Eddie Murphy. You People. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So Jonah Hill, You People kiss. This is crazy. I'll show you right now. You People kiss. They didn't actually kiss on set. They did it in CGI.
Guys, you're getting paid millions of dollars. Just kiss.
This is literally what they put out in their film. Look at that.
Wait, what?
They just like blended them together in the shot.
Why didn't they kiss?
I don't know. Maybe they didn't have an intimacy coordinator on the day or something.
Isn't it it's a wedding scene, right? How can I'm just gonna watch the video. I gotta see this.
That's fine.
I get it.
I think the volume's down. It's pretty crazy.
Let's see this fucking ad shit. Hold on 1 second. I'm watching. That looks awful. It looks like a terrible Photoshop, but it's. Oh my god!
That's really in the movie.
With fake rose petals falling all over them. Wow.
It's a real shot in a real movie.
Jesus Christ. I wonder why they didn't kiss.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
I'm sure there's a reason, but it's pretty bad. But
It is a Netflix movie.
You People kiss was fake with CGI. But this one looked great. I mean, and Fassbender one looked incredible.
Yeah.
It looked real.
Yeah.
Looked so real. But what were we talking about before that?
We're talking about double stuff.
Gotcha.
The filmmaking.
No, the doubles.
Yeah.
It looked absolutely incredible. And I felt for both characters. I loved Mickey 18. He was so entertaining. He was such a wild card.
You're such a little bitch.
And what'd you say? Thank you for dinner.
You really let him have it, right? You
This
laid
guy
into
with the
him.
killing and kill this and kill that. We should kill that motherfucker when we had the chance.
My memories are your memories. There's a little Batman growl in it too.
Definitely, that's
Yeah.
what I mean. That's why I said specifically Mickey 17. If you close your eyes, you wouldn't recognize it. I got a job to do. But also, this movie,
I got a job to do.
it has obviously great metaphors for late stage capitalism, where basically everyone's a disposable person in a lot of ways in this movie. It seems like not just Mickey, but the average person is a disposable asset, as well as a great satire on different classes of labor.
And in the book, it's really detailed. You were talking about rations. There is a hierarchy to rations.
That's why,
Yeah.
one thing I wish that was explored a little more.
That's why
because-
she gives him some of his, because she gets more rations than other people do.
Yeah, that would be a con for me, is we didn't see the effect of the low rations on Mickey.
Rations in Mickey 7 are a currency, essentially.
Yeah.
It's very important. It is the currency for the people on the ship.
I loved the printer design, though. I thought it was so excellent. Love the blue mint color, as well as the functions are so silly and realistic, where he's like printing, then he gets sucked back in, and he's printing again. It's like a paper jam, basically. And then he prints out. Obviously, they forget to put the table there multiple times. Great. Whoever did the stunt of flipping over.
That's a hard fall.
That looked painful. Ass up and everything. Now, what I loved about the printer sequences is we didn't see the inside of the printer until the end of the movie, where we saw in Mickey's nightmare, when he fell asleep during the ceremony of the explosion and detonation of the human printing machine, Kenneth Marshall being reprinted by Ilfa in this nightmare he has, which was so cool because she said even his kidneys are more attractive than you, and we get to see inside what the printing machine looks like. It was really cool to see just like the body being printed, and I really like this ending because I feel like when you were watching it, it's a dream, but also there's a possibility that it's not a dream. Ilfa could have reprinted herself, and because we learned in the movie that she ended up killing herself, she could have survived, reprinted herself, and then killed herself, and then started reprinting Kenneth Marshall out again. And this nightmare really feeds into the paranoia that Mickey feels throughout the entire film. Like I said, he's very naive. He's constantly paranoid. He's always worried. He's kind of a hypochondriac in a lot of ways. So this paranoia seeps into it. It also shows you that, even though Kenneth Marshall's dead, some asshole fascist leader who wants to take over a community can rise up so easily. It can be reprinted like that.
A loop.
Exactly.
Everything's a loop. History repeats itself.
But the destruction of the human printer by orders of the government of Niflheim, which Nasha is now part of, gives hope to humanity that this won't happen again.
I really love the way this film was shot, and it looked exceptional, especially on a really big screen. And so they shot this with the RE 65, the RE Lexus 65, which is the largest sensor that Ari makes. It's even bigger than VistaVision film, which is two 65s put together, and then even larger than the Ariflex celluloid film. So the Ari 65 is massive, and it looks fantastic. And then an excellent color grade from the company and the team that made the color grading did a really fantastic job with the color design of this film. It felt so tangible, and there's all the Bong Joon-ho's films. They have like a silvery hue to them. They have like this desaturated silvery tone to them that I really like, and he's built upon it. I would say Parasite might be the only one that doesn't really have that. But I mean, you look at Snowpiercer, Memories of Murder, Mother, this film, many of his films, they have this really cool palette that I think just gets better and better. And this camera worked really well for the shoot. And I think it was absolutely fantastic with the Cook lenses. It was really impressive.
Yeah, it looked great, especially with the production design.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of not dirty future to the extent of Star Wars, but it looks practical. Like everything on the sets doesn't look too far away from our era right now. It looks like everything on the walls and any part of the ship has function, has purpose, and it all sort of just makes sense. You know, I like futuristic movies, but sometimes, and I like unique tech that I've never seen before in a movie. I like how stripped down these locations were, and how close to our current time period it felt.
You know, they did a great job of showing the fear humans have and how fear can cause destruction too. Like when the first team starts investigating the caverns, and one of the team, they all start firing at the creeper, the little baby creeper that is like telling them like, get off my turf.
Just wants to play.
And then one of the team members she's dead. She accidentally kills herself by shooting at a creeper in the cavern above her head, destroying the ice, which collapses on top of her. And it shows how human beings can often be motivated by fear and the destruction that can cause.
One of the most outrageous parts of this movie has to be the dinner.
Oh my God.
Where Mickey is the lucky winner of this month's contest to dine in the private quarters of Kenneth Marshall and Ilfa with the captain of the ship, which clearly you obviously see as soon as you walk in there. And also when they do the private shots of Kenneth Marshall, like when they're hovering over Niflheim, look at it, it's beautiful, this is going to be our home, beneath us is our future. And he's just in like a satin pajamas, and she's like laying on his lap.
I love the pigeon costume.
Yeah,
the guy in the pigeon costume.
But back to the dinner, where we see obviously he's got much more wealth, much better home. Clearly there's a disparity here. And he's got a server, and he's got this nice dinner table. Mickey's invited. He's eating this gross-looking sirloin steak. At the same time, he's dealing with 18 going upstairs with Nasha to go smash, and that's just pissing him off so much. But he wins this contest, has to go eat with Marshall. Kai gets invited there as well, and they have that conversation where, Kai, you're basically a prime candidate for our breeding program, or our all-human breeding program. Is all I am to a uterus? And it's a very funny scene, and then it takes a turn for the worse, where we find out that the science was testing HGH meat, fake lab-grown meat, on Mickey to make sure it's safe to eat, which caused him to go into immense pain and convulsions and vomiting. And so quickly, they come out of the doors because they're just probably watching from behind the walls of waiting to see what would happen. They test out another product, another painkiller, something Blue Joe Blue, whatever it is, on Mickey. But this whole sequence
Purple Joe.
It's so erratic. It's out of control. It's fucking chaos. Even the singing with the Gospels when they're trying to say the nice things about the girl who's dead.
Yeah.
And they just break out into singing prayer. It shows the facade of this fake religion for this fake corporation, which is just another kingdom trying to be built, really. You see the facades of like a government and a religion of a king in a lot of ways.
The creation of propaganda. He has that assistant, the filmmaker guy, the bald guy with glasses, who's always talking about like setting up scenes where
with the earring in his chin.
Yeah, and he's basically cultivating a fake history of the events that are taking place for the future to use as footage of this apparent incredible leader for humanity, and basically the entire thing is built on lies. So I think it was really great how they showed how easy it is to create propaganda for generations to follow.
Those are all things. It's like that whole sequence and that dinner sequence just shows you just what like the leaders of these massive nations of civilizations use all these things to take control.
Yeah.
And they all factor in. The propaganda guy is hysterical. He's
great.
so creepy and odd, and it's a great performance. And I love the third act where, you know, they discover that they're multiples. Mickey 18 tries to kill Kenneth Marshall while he's doing his little TV show. He reveals the black diamond where they'll all be etched. Some of you will be etched on here. Obviously not Mickey's not getting etched on there, even though he gave them the gift of the vaccine. They kill the creeper. But then we have that discovery of the multiples, and this whole third act of the creepers are outside. They're encompassing the base. They haven't attacked yet. They have another creeper that they've taken. They've killed Luca. They have Zoko here, who he has hooked on above the incinerator. And this whole sequence of creating this fake history of Kenneth Marshall giving some dignity to these aliens, these insects, right before he blows them to oblivion with this insane toxin.
Yeah, I think it's really brilliant, and I think that from what I've seen from reactions, I think it's going over a lot of people's heads what they're doing in this movie and what he's doing with the narrative and the characters, and someone who's trying to build an empire with himself as the shining beacon of hope, and the tools he's using and how they're taking advantage of people and using people. I think the comedy might be distracting people from what it is about.
Maybe.
It could be it, but I think it's an extremely smart script.
Well, a lot of movies don't have great subtext like this, I think, today. That's maybe one of the reasons. But again, great third act. I love the translation device where Mickey's talking to basically the mama creeper. That's the mama creeper. She's in charge. The mama creeper is going to threaten to kill all humans unless they bring Zoko back. And they don't kill Zoko. However, if they kill Zoko, they will kill all humans with their crazy sonic scream.
Death.
And the baby in the basket translating with Nasha, and the camera is absolutely hysterical, getting the upper hand on Ilfa as Kenneth Marshall is going to give his victory speech to the insect aliens before he kills them all.
The low angle looks great.
Dude, he like lowers it, he raises his goggles, puts his hands on his
great.
But then we have a flip of power where Nasha Nasha gets the upper hand with the other guys, and fortunately it works out where Mickey 18 sacrifices himself to kill Marshall so that the creepers get their one death to satisfy their quota to keep peace, and also they take out Marshall at the same time. It's a powerful act where Mickey 18 sacrifices himself to save Mickey 17. It's kind of odd where you kind of save yourself. Mm-hmm. Would you do that? Would Mickey 17 do that for Mickey 18? Probably not, but he's willing to go out there and save humanity. So I think that was really fascinating. Like, would you save yourself if you had the opportunity to save yourself?
And it sets up this a sequel to this novel, where Mickey 7 goes on adventures. And
what's it called? Blue Moon.
But there are further adventures of Mickey 7 in a sequel novel, and I believe he's working on a third one if it hasn't already come out yet.
I didn't know there's a sequel. I'm gonna have to get it and read it. But I like the ending of the movie. You know, Nasha, she's risen to a position of power in the colony. She's officiates that groundbreaking ceremony on Niflheim of the explosion of the human printing machine. Mickey's the one that gets to press it, and now Mickey's human again.
Essentially,
people are going to treat him like human. He's always been Mickey Barnes, and the expendable program has been eliminated. The book has a completely different third act.
Remind me, because I remember during watching the film, I was like,
I don't want to spoil it
in
case anyone wants to read it. It's quite a different book in terms of the end of the movie. Mm-hmm. There's a completely different ticking clock that's going on.
Oh, I remember now.
So I recommend still reading Mickey 7. It's an awesome book. It's different enough that you can still enjoy it even if you see the movie.
Yes.
but it is a very different second to third act, second half of the.
But the
of
communications do happen, and yeah, that's all. That all happens.
Yeah.
I remember now what happens.
But I like the direction that Bong took it. You know, it's a little more cinematic, I think, and I think a little more fun.
And it's more playful for sure. It's got such a playful tone to it. And not every movie has to be. And I also think that a lot of people are just trying to compare this to Parasite. And it's like, guys, like, have you seen that many Bong Joon-Ho films? I mean, he's done ridiculous movies before, and I mean, we can't hold every movie that comes out up to the landmark that is Parasite. You know, this is a really great, funny, mad dash, substance-filled sci-fi film that is great escapist entertainment while also has a lot to say. And featuring great performances and incredible filmmaking. It's a really great time.
I adored this movie.
I think it's fantastic. Best movie of 2025 so far.
So good. I know it's only March, but still, this right now, for me, movie to beat for the year.
Yeah, we're 25% there, almost.
But it's probably going to have a Dune situation. Came out too early in the year to get any nominations. Maybe it'll get visual effects. Maybe it'll get sound at the end of the year for the Oscars. But that's probably about it. I mean, I think Pattinson deserves an Oscar nomination for this performance.
Pattinson should win. He should win. He's
Not many people, I think, could pull off the style of the performance he did here.
Not this.
It's that good. I think a lot of people would have been a little more stale.
There has been another twin movie that came out a couple weeks ago, and it's like very good actor, but he's not Pattinson.
There's a lot of twin movies or clone movies and doppelganger movies coming out. Sinners comes out next month in April.
Oh yeah.
We talked about this earlier. There's another twin movie already.
Maybe that has something to do with its low box office. Maybe there seems to be oversaturation of the concept.
Maybe, but I mean, it's still early in the year for it's like the second one to come out.
Yeah,
it's Robert Pattinson, man.
It's the man.
If anything, that's more alluring for our
the more
audiences.
Pattinsons,
The more Pattinsons, yeah, exactly. It's really cool. But yeah, that's about it I got for Mickey.
I loved it. It was a great time.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, check it out. And if you did see it and you listened to our review, we hope you enjoyed it.
All right, thanks everyone for tuning into this episode of Bong Joon-Ho's Mickey 17. Become a patron today at patreon.com/Raiders of Lost Podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple. And take care, everyone.
See you next time.
This episode was brought to you by our chosen one patrons, Jacob Kossler and Nicholas Martin. Thanks so much, boys. Raiders of the Lost Podcast is a mirror image production. Sound mixing done by Jacob Kossler. Opening music by Chase Jackson.